A new parking management company has been set up in Dubai ahead of an expected IPO. Public joint stock company Parkin will be in charge of designing and operating public parking spaces.
Minutes from the last minute, a meeting even of the US Federal Reserve suggests that the central bank could keep borrowing costs higher for some time, suggesting that rate cuts may not happen at the end of Q1.
Oil prices continuing to rise this morning on concerns about the situation in the Red Sea. Brent crude is trading above $78 a barrel.
Germany boosting its green energy mix to 55%, so more than half of electricity. Offshore wind's the top source, providing about a third of all German power.
And Intel has teamed up with a VC firm to set up an artificial intelligence software company, Articulate.
This is the Business Breakfast on Dubai Eye 103.8
with Richard Dean, Brandy Scott and Tom Urquhart
on the UAE's #1 talk radio station.
Right, 40 minutes or so until we get the UAE PMI data. But we've been pulling some of the numbers out of what has come out from Saudi when it comes to the non-oil private sector. The thing that was the most interesting to us was just a couple of lines as to what was happening with salaries. The Riyadh Bank says it's seen one of the sharpest wage increases in December in 9 years. We're asking what's happening with the Robert Walters country head for the kingdom. They're a recruitment company, Omar Zakaria. Omar, it's lovely to meet you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, Riyadh Bank says in its PMI report that it is seeing an acceleration in private sector wages in Saudi. What are you seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we are now in the 7th year of the Vision 2030, and this market right now is the busiest recruitment market in the kingdom that we've seen. So companies are competing for talent, and obviously that's pushing up salaries across the board in the kingdom.
Can you give me a rough estimation? When you say they're being pushed up year on year, what would you estimate?
I would say from last year up and for going into this year, we're probably looking at a flat 10% increase in salaries. This also the factors are talent shortage, so clients and companies want to pay more to get the right talent. There's lots of relocations of people moving to Saudi. We've seen about 200,000 people move to Riyadh this year, and obviously that's pushing up costs because the units, the rents in the units to live are less. So that's kind of getting the cost of living is also increasing there.
Okay, let's dig into, there's quite a lot there. So you say 200,000 people moved to Riyadh in 2023. Yeah. Talk to me more about what impact that's having on the cost of living. What are you hearing and seeing?
Well, the main thing is, Riyadh is a city which is developing. There are lots of things happening, lots of projects happening, lots of residential projects that are being launched. The kingdom is pushing a lot of initiatives through, but the city is still not geared up for a 10 million population. It's about 7 million right now. So when people move there, the demand for housing units goes up. That's pushing up prices. Prices there. There's more. The VAT in Saudi is 10% more than the UAE. So obviously, when you do your groceries and you do your shopping, that goes up. So that's kind of impacting the inflation, and that's why you're seeing the rise in salaries.
Do people know that when they are moving in? What kind of conversations are you having with candidates?
Well, usually with candidates, if you're in the region, you understand Saudi because 75% of everything that's happening in the region now is happening in Saudi. But especially when we speak to candidates outside, they have a very different perspective. They think that if you are moving to Saudi, you can probably get a 40-50% rise on your current compensation. But those days are gone now, and you probably are looking at on average about 20% on your current salary. That's what on average what companies are willing to pay. But the thing is, salary is one part of people moving to Saudi, but the projects in Saudi, the kind of things that are happening, the new cities are being built, and people want to move there for this, not just the salary, that is.
For the opportunity of being involved in something funky.
Absolutely.
Which sectors are seeing the biggest rises? Where are you seeing the biggest pay bumps?
So the kingdom basically has a sector strategy, and they're focusing on 6 main sectors now for the Vision 2030, namely transportation and logistics, information technology, you've got leisure and entertainment, tourism is big in Saudi, and then you've got real estate and hospitality. These are main sectors where you're seeing a lot of demand in hiring, and also salaries are going up.
Where are you finding the people that you're placing in the kingdom?
Well, it depends. We recruit people from across the globe, but 80% of the work we do in Saudi are still Saudi nationals. There's a big push by the Saudi government to hire locals and have more locals in organizations across the kingdom. But if you look at expats, we're looking at expats from all over the world. There's no specific country or area we target.
Rough percentage of those expats that you are placing, what percent would you say were already resident in the Gulf that are coming in from other Gulf countries?
I was 50%.
What's the churn like? Once you place someone, how likely is it that they stay where you've put them?
Well, that's another challenge in Saudi, right? I think one of the biggest challenges employers are facing in Saudi right now is to attract talent and then to retain them. Because there's a bit of skill and talent shortage in the kingdom, a tenure of 2 years is considered a decent tenure in Saudi because the market is changing, the demand is high for skilled labor. But on average, I would say 2 to 3 years is what the people look for, when they look to hire.
How much poaching's going on?
Loads of them, all across.
And is that on salary?
It's on salary, it's an opportunity. There's a lot of poaching happening within Saudi nationals because that's kind of where the real challenge is in terms of recruiting the right skill set and the right person. But across for expats, it just depends on the skill set that they bring to the table. But there is quite a lot of happening, and there's a lot of competition for talent as well in the kingdom.
One of the notes that came out of this PMI report was that employers were saying that they had to raise wages to keep the key people. Yes. And to keep up with the cost of living. They said that the cost of living was potentially still outpacing what salaries were doing. Is that true?
Well, again, cost of living is going up, but I think the main factor is to keep new people. If you're not keeping up your salaries up at the market rates, then you will probably lose talent to your competition. So that's probably the main factor, yeah.
What are the soft questions, the non-salary questions that candidates are asking you? Saudi seen as a hardship posting for an awful lot of time. Are concerns changing?
I think especially for international global expats, you still got to educate them a bit about that, but it is not anymore a hardship location at all. Lots of people want to move to Saudi now because of whatever the funky projects you mentioned are going around. But the soft questions are more about the family lifestyle, the schooling, the kind of schools available there, the work from home policy, the holidays and stuff. Because it's still quite unknown to a lot of people globally. In the Middle East, everybody knows about Saudi, but if you look to speak to someone in Australia or US or UK, they still want to know about what's really happening, how's actually living in Saudi rather than working for the whole family.
Thanks so much for joining us this morning. Omar Zakaria is the country head for the kingdom at the recruitment firm Robert Walters. We appreciate your time this morning.
By 103.8.
Join the conversation.